All right guys, welcome back to another episode of Unbranded Motorworks. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. Today is going to be based around an install on this 2023 F-350 single rear wheel behind me. This is my dad's truck. Today we're going to be installing a Hellwig front and rear sway bar kit. So I'll explain a little bit why we're doing it, what the product's all about, who Hellwig is, and then let's get into the install. We'll do a step-by-step install showing you guys what tools we're using, how to install it properly, and yeah, let's get into it. All right, so the kit we have here from Hellwig is the 1 5/16" big wig rear sway bar for 17 through 23 Ford F-250 and 350 Super Duty. This model is specific to the four-wheel drive pickup and dualies. And now we're gonna go over all the components that are in the kit and give you a little backstory on who Hellwig is. To give you guys a little backstory on what Hellwig is, they're a local company to me just up the road here in Visalia, California, just about a 10-minute drive away. I've been using their products on our personal vehicles and customer vehicles for the last 5 to 6 years since I moved to the Central Valley. They're a great company that's been around for 4 generations, starting in 1946, making all these steel components here in California, just up the road. They're a trusted company that's been all over the world, all over the United States, building products like the one we're gonna install today to make your pickup or vehicle ride better than ever. So let's get into this install. I'm gonna show you guys all the tools that we need, all the components that came with the kit, and let's get to it. So this kit includes the sway bar that is adjustable with 3 different stiffnesses. I'll show you guys how to choose and adjust the sway bar once we get it installed. It comes with 2 poly bushings that the sway bar pivots on, a hardware pack with all the hardware necessary to install the kit, 2 square shaped bushing retainers that hold the sway bar in place, a male and a female end link, and a mounting plate. Let's go ahead and get the vehicle up in the air and we'll show you guys how to install this thing. All right, so the tools you're gonna need to do this install, I'm choosing to use a 1/2" ratchet, and then you're gonna need a 15mm socket, a 5/8 socket, a 7/8 socket, and a 5/16 socket. And I would also suggest getting the corresponding wrenches for each of those sockets. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and install our 4 polyurethane bushings into our 4 end links that we have here. We have the male and the female end links. They all run the same bushings and sleeves, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. You're going to be using the polyurethane grease that came supplied in the kit. You're just going to want to take a good amount of that and apply it to the bushing all the way around. This will help make sure that no bushings squeak in the end, and it also helps install the bushings. I'm going to use just a random socket here to place the end link on top of as I push this in. Most of the time you can just use the palm of your hand and push straight down like that. Now it's in there. We'll do the other 4 and then we'll install the sleeves after that. So now I'm just using some glass cleaner and a microfiber to get all the extra grease off of these end links, just so it doesn't allow dirt to stick to it or be messy in the future. The next thing we're going to do is apply the same grease to the sleeves. You don't need a lot, a little goes a long way with this stuff. Then you're simply just going to take it rod in, get it started like that, and then an easy way to do it is just put it on the edge of your bench. That's in, and we'll repeat the process 3 more times and then we'll move on. So we're going to go ahead and take the supplied locking nuts for these end links and thread them on. I'm just going to thread them on about halfway up, maybe a little bit past for now, and we'll adjust them later once they're on the truck. So we're going to get these threaded on, then we're going to apply a little bit of anti-seize to this male side of the end link, just for the future if we ever have to adjust it again or take it out to service the truck. It'll just make it easier to break it loose. It prevents corrosion from all the road grime. We don't get a whole lot of rain. We definitely don't get snow here, but we're just gonna put a dab like that on both of the ends of these. And you definitely don't need a lot of anti-seize, because this stuff, a little bit, you can become the Tin Man if you aren't careful with that stuff. Just gonna go ahead and thread these together. We're gonna throw them about halfway in, and then we're just gonna leave them there. Don't tighten anything down until we get it on the truck, and then we'll do all the adjusting then. So now we're gonna take these bushings for the actual sway bar, and we're going to apply the same grease for the polyurethane on these guys, inside and out, like so. And then we'll go ahead and get them on the sway bar itself first before we install the sway bar into the truck, just to make it easier. Just go ahead and work that around. Make sure it's got a good coat all on, especially the inside where the sway bar is going to pivot. So as you can see here on the passenger side of the truck, this is the rear shock mount at the bottom off of the axle. It has these two threaded holes with this indentation. That's where the sway bar is going to sit, and on the opposite side over here, it's the same mount, just backwards. So the sway bar is actually going to be on the front side, closest to the front of the truck on the driver's side, and it's going to be on the furthest back side on the passenger side. So I'm going to go ahead and just take these brackets and the supplied 15mm head bolts that we have here, and we're just going to get them started. I applied a little bit of blue Loctite to them just for my own measure. You're going to go ahead and thread them in just about that far so the bracket can hang out like that. We're going to do that on both of these, like so. Let's get a couple threads in there, hang them like that. Now we're going to go get the sway bar. That way we can set it in here, get the other two bolts, and run them in. So there we go. So as you can see on the sway bar, there's a rounded side and a squared side on the sway bar bushing. The rounded side goes to the factory mount on the axle, and the square side goes to this mount that's supplied in the kit. So we're gonna go ahead and clock it how we would want it to sit in the vehicle. So we're gonna put this one up like that, and we're gonna put this one up pretty much a mirrored image backwards on this side. We're gonna go ahead and take the bar now. Oh, maybe we aren't. Take the bar now, we're gonna go ahead and set it up there in the brackets like so. We're gonna take this one, we're gonna go over on this side, get it to set in there, and then we can get the bushings clocked right in there, and then we can put the second bolt in. So now I'm gonna take the other 15mm headed bolt and thread it in this top hole. Just go ahead and get that one started. Then we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing on this side. Go ahead and get this one started. Again, all four of these bolts, two here, all have blue Loctite on them. I'm gonna go ahead and swing the bar like that, and then we're gonna get just an impact to run these in. We're not gonna tighten them all the way with the impact. It'll just make it a little easier to run them in, and then we'll tighten them by hand. All right, so now that we have this hung up there, we're just gonna use an impact to run these four bolts in. We're not gonna over tighten them. We're just gonna snug them up so that it helps us keep the sway bar in one spot so it's not swinging around. So we're just gonna go ahead and snug these up like so. That threads are just dirty. So the reason the impact sounds like it's blasting them on tight is mainly just because there's a little bit of road grime and a little bit of surface rust in the threads of those holes. This truck is only about 6 months old, so it's not that bad. If you're installing this kit on a older vehicle that's been on the road longer, I'd suggest taking a wire brush, like a pipe cleaner in there, and maybe some WD-40 first to clean them out. I didn't think they were that bad, so I just went ahead and ran them in. And so now we're gonna move on to getting the end link brackets on the frame, and then we'll put the end links on, and then we'll be pretty much done after that. We're now gonna install the upper end link bracket that goes inside a factory cutout hole in the frame. This is the bracket here, and it uses the 15/16 headed bolt that is supplied in the kit with the flat washer and lock washer. We're gonna put the kit through this square hole like so until that upper hole lines up. And we're just gonna go ahead and thread the bolt in. If your truck came with a factory sway bar and you're just upgrading the sway bar, you don't have to put this bracket in. There will already be a bracket on your frame. Just go ahead and put the end link back to the OEM bracket. In our case, this truck did not come with a sway bar, so we're adding this bracket in. I went ahead and put some blue Loctite on that. I'm now gonna just run it in with the impact, and at the end, I'll torque everything and tell you guys all the torque specs. Now that the driver's side one is installed, I'm gonna go ahead and do the one on the passenger side, and then we'll go ahead and install the end links. All right, so if you look on the end of the sway bar here, both sides are gonna have 3 holes, one being furthest towards the front of the truck and one being furthest towards the rear, one right in the middle. These are your 3 stiffness adjustments. The further in makes the bar shorter, making it have less leverage side to side, which is gonna make it a stiffer ride. The middle is gonna be a middle ground, obviously, and then the furthest one out is gonna have the most leverage, which is gonna make it the softest ride. So the most equals the softest, the least equals the stiffest. So we're gonna go ahead and go for the middle adjustment. The nice thing is if it's too soft or too stiff, we can just simply come under here and move it over one bolt hole. The reason for this is some people have service beds on their trucks, some people have just a stock bed, and some people tow trailers a lot. So you can really dial this in and pick a driving style that best suits your truck and what you do with it. We're gonna go right in the middle just because this truck gets driven a lot with the OEM bed with nothing in it, and it also gets a trailer every once in a while. So we're gonna stick with the middle. I'll show you guys how to put the end links in and how to adjust them now. So before we put the end links on this sway bar, we're gonna go ahead and make sure that its range of motion is all good. This is obviously way more exaggerated than this will ever move, but we're just making sure that it's not hitting anything or close to any brake lines or wiring on the axle. Now we're gonna go ahead and make our end links here the same length. A pretty easy way to do it is to put a bolt through both of the top. I'm using one of the bolts that came with the kit, and then just thread them out till they line up at the bottom here. I'm gonna go ahead and set this sway bar up on the middle hole. I'm gonna start on the driver's side, get the sway bar link held in at the top, and then we'll go ahead and line it up at the bottom. Then we'll go ahead and go around, torque everything down, tighten it, set the truck back on the ground. So actually, to make things a little bit easier on the driver's side here, I went ahead and loosened up the frame bracket to hold the top of the end link, just because since the fuel tank's right here and the def tank, it's kind of hard to get your fingers back in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and at least just get this washer and nut on there while there's a little bit more room. And then I will go ahead and tighten this all back up and get it into position. Now I'm going to take the bottom of the end link and put the bolt through the bottom hole and go ahead and get this one started as well. I've been putting blue Loctite on everything just as a little bit of insurance. So now we're going to put the end link on the other side, snug everything up by hand, and then I'll go over torque specs. So I'm just going to go ahead and snug all these up for now, and then like I said, we'll go back once I get everything on. I still have to put the passenger side drop link on, and then we'll be able to go around and torque everything. The torque specs are specified per bolt size in the install instructions, so they made it super easy over at Hellwig for you to install this kit. And yeah, so I'm just gonna go ahead, get this side finished up, get the other side in, and we'll start with torquing this big bolt up here for the frame bracket. Then we'll move on to these 5/8 bolts for all of the end links. we'll move, then after that, we will do the torque spec on the lock nut for the end link, and then finally we'll do the 15mm torque specs on the actual polyurethane bushing carriers down here on the axle. So let's get into it. All right, so now we're going to be torquing these 15mm bolts that hold the sway bar main bushing on to 30 foot-pounds. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. It's 30. Then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing to these back two here. All right, so now that those are torqued to 30, we're going to move on to these end link ones here. So now we're going to be torquing all four of these, the two bottoms and the two tops, to 45 foot-pounds. Again, all these torque specs are in the install instructions. They go by size, so if you just look at the top of the page, it will say the torque spec for every single one. All right, so now we're going to torque the lock nut on the end link here to 60 foot-pounds using a crow's foot on the torque wrench. Go ahead and get like that. There you go. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side, and then we only got one more set of bolts to torque after that. All right, now we're going to torque this 15/16 bolt that holds the frame mount for the drop link in, and we're going to be torquing this to 80 foot-pounds. All right, now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. This kit here is the front sway bar kit for Ford 11 through 23 F-250 and 350 four-wheel drive models, single rear wheel or dually. This kit is super simple to install due to the fact that these trucks came with a stock sway bar in the front. So we're going to use the same mounting location and even the same end links to install this one. So I'll go ahead and show you how quick and easy it is to install this upgraded sway bar from Hellwig, and let's get into it. All right, so we're gonna start by taking the top nut off this end link, which is an 18mm. I'm gonna use an impact. You can use a wrench or a ratchet. Let's go the right way. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and take that nut off. We're gonna do the same thing on the passenger side. Alright, so we got both those 18mm nuts off the factory sway bar end link. Now we're simply just going to switch our socket over to a 15mm, and we're going to get right up under here and remove these two 15mm nuts on both sides. We got two over here. When you do this side, you're going to want to hold this with your one hand. Drop that on the ground. All right. I'm going to go ahead and set my impact on the ground. Give this guy a little bit of a wiggle, like that. And we should be able to just lift it off here like so. And there you go. That's the stock one out. Now we're gonna get the new one brought over here. We're gonna put the polyurethane bushings on them, get them all greased up, put the brackets on, and do the reverse of what we just did. All right, so these are the two D-shaped polyurethane bushings that come with the kit, and these are the two brackets that also come with the kit. The main difference in this kit is that the sway bar is so much beefier. This is 1 inch and 5/16, while the front one, I believe, is just 1 inch. So you're gonna go ahead and put these bushings on right after you put your polyurethane grease on. So you're gonna go ahead and squeeze some in the center right there. Go ahead and work that around with your finger. Get it all over the inside. Then you're gonna go ahead and put some on the outside here. Go ahead and smear that stuff around as well, like that. Make sure you get a good coating on everything. You're gonna go ahead and squeeze some of the inside of this going. Pretty good amount. Don't be shy to use too much, you can always wipe it off. Just gonna go ahead and do that. Smear it all over the outside, like so. Go ahead and smear it all over the inside, just like that. Now what we're gonna do is, if you look at the bar here, there's a flat section in the middle and then there's actually a bend up on both sides. That's the top. If you pay attention when you take the front one out, the factory one, it is shaped exactly the same. The only difference is the diameter size bar. So we're gonna go ahead and put these bushings on with the split going backwards, and they go right here on this flat spot there. And then we're gonna take our metal D-shaped retainer, put it right there. We're gonna go ahead and do the same thing on this flat over here. Get that on. Go ahead and put the D-shaped metal retainer on this side, and then we're just gonna go ahead and get these sticky gloves off. It's a hot summer day in Visalia where it's like 100 something out. So my hands are sweaty, I'm sweaty. We're gonna go ahead and take some glass cleaner, make sure we get all that grease, extra grease off of here, just so we don't make a mess. Okay, now we're gonna make sure these are really pushed in there so they wanna stay when we go ahead and pick the bar up. Now we're gonna go ahead and carry this over there, get it thrown up, and then really it's just a reverse operation of how we got the other one out. All right, so a little trick to keep these on while you're trying to install the sway bar and you don't want to keep dropping them on the ground, just get some masking tape or electrical tape. I like masking tape just because it doesn't leave residue behind. You're just gonna go ahead and put it over that and around the sway bar like that. That way it just kind of holds it up. I'm gonna do that to both sides. That way if I accidentally hit the bottom of the frame with the bracket, it doesn't make the bracket fall off. And it's make it a lot easier, especially if you're doing this by yourself. If you have another person to help you, that'd be great, but you don't always have that, so this is just a trick to help you kind of do it on your own. All right, so let's go ahead and get this thing in there now. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get these end links lined up there on both sides. Then we're gonna go ahead and start with the driver's side because it's the easiest one for me to reach right now. We're gonna go ahead and get that all the way up there like so. And I like to just get one of the nuts started on here, so I don't have to worry about the bracket falling. Then I'm gonna go over here and deal with the passenger side. Sometimes you gotta move them around a little bit, just like that. Now we got that one on. Get a nut started on this one. And then we can go ahead and just take our masking tape off right now. And I went ahead and put a little bit of blue Loctite on the studs that we're mounting this to, just because these are factory crush nuts and they tend to wear out if you're taking them on and off. So just as an extra precaution, I'd put some blue Loctite on there. So now we're gonna go ahead and just run those in with the impact. Again, they're 15 millimeters. You wanna keep them even going in, so hop back and forth. Like that. Come over here and do the same thing. Just like that. Now, next step is to put these end link top nuts on. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put some blue Loctite in them down here. That was way too much. We'll wipe that up. And then we'll go ahead and get those installed, and then I'll get the torque specs for you guys and we'll torque them all down. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and torque these two 15 millimeter nuts on both sides, so 4 in total, to 40 to 45 foot-pounds. So let's go ahead and get these guys all good. These two over here. right, so now we're gonna go ahead and torque the link here for the end link, and it goes to 55 foot-pounds. So this one's kind of an awkward one to do because it's way up here. Okay, that clicked. Sometimes my torque wrench doesn't click very loud. That one clicked as well. So those are all good, and that's how you install this front sway bar kit on a 2023 F-350. Alright guys, thank you for joining us on this episode of Unbranded Motorworks. Hopefully you guys liked something a little different for us doing an install. Go ahead and make sure to jump on over to Hellwig and check out their website. Check out all the products they make for pretty much any year, make, and model imaginable. They don't just do truck stuff, they also do cars. Go ahead, hop over there, check them out. Thanks again for coming and taking a look at what we're doing here, and hopefully you like the content. And if you bought one of these kits, hopefully it helped you install it. So thanks.